Hi, I'm Mark Rosenthal. I'm a medical oncologist, a cancer specialist. I do brain cancer as a specialty, and I work at Royal Melbourne Hospital and run some clinical trials. And just wanted to discuss a little bit about clinical trials in brain cancer, tell you a bit about why we do them, what we do, where they're done, and how we can connect with scientists and with patients. So brain cancer is very uncommon, 1% of all cancers, but it's a really important disease. We do a lot of clinical trials in Melbourne, and we actually do a lot of trials that are what we call first time in human or early phase clinical trials. These are drugs that have never been used in patients before, and they're very exciting trials. They're very sophisticated trials, looking at genetic abnormalities and trying to target those rather than giving broad chemotherapy agents that simply poison the cells. So these trials come and go a little bit. Sometimes we've got 2 or 3 trials running, sometimes none, sometimes 5. They come and go a little bit. But these are really exciting trials, trying to move the field forward. In general, patients like being on trials. They get looked after really well. There's lots of people looking after them, a lot of attention to detail, I's are dotted, T's are crossed, protocols are followed. They like the idea of being on something new and experimental. I think it's a great opportunity for our patients. What it does is it means that they don't have to feel like they have to go to New York and pay $500,000 to get on a clinical trial for a new drug. No, you can go to Royal Melbourne or the Austin or one of the other big hospitals and get onto a trial of a drug that's never been used before. Couldn't be any more experimental. Not every drug works, we know that, patients know that. But over time, we have made incremental improvements in the care of patients with brain cancer. These patients like being on the trials. We'll ask them afterwards, what do you think? And they like being on these trials. Part of it's altruism, part of it's trying something different, part of it is being looked after. So that's all to their advantage. How do we get these trials? We have to work really hard. We work really hard to bring these sorts of trials to Australia. Most of them are from big international companies, and we work with some of the big centres in the States. Some of them are Australian biotech companies. We understand clinical trials. We understand how to do them. We understand how to look after patients, how to construct them, write a protocol, look at the preclinical data, all of those sorts of things. And it's not just me and my colleagues in Melbourne. We refer patients backwards and forwards. If there's a good trial at the Austin, I'll send my patients there and vice versa. But we've got a very good clinical trial network in Australia called COGNO, the Cooperative Trials Group for Neuro-Oncology, which I happen to be chair of, trying to bring trials to Australia that will benefit our patients. What we'd like to do also is work with the scientists. So there'll be a scientist working in a laboratory somewhere who has never even considered how a clinical trial might run, or never really met a patient, or doesn't know anything about brain cancer, even if they're really looking after brain cancer cells, they're not looking after a patient. And we find that we can actually collaborate with these scientists if only we knock on their door or they knock on our door. We have a meeting at our hospital, Royal Melbourne, every Thursday afternoon. Researchers and clinicians get together, and the number of times a researcher tells us a story and we say, you're going down the wrong path. That's not what we do in real life. And the penny drops and they go down perhaps the correct pathway. Or it might be that a new drug comes to me for a trial and I think, you know what, it'd be interesting if they put that drug into a petri dish or a vial or a glassware or some sort of laboratory equipment and tested it in some way. And the number of times that we've both redirected our efforts because of a collaboration between scientist and clinician, it's an enormous advantage for us to come together. So what are the sorts of trials that we've done? Well, we've done big international trials that we've added a fairly common drug or a regular drug into the usual mix of treatments. 1,000 patients on a trial around the world, 100 patients from Australia, so that's one type of trial we do. But the more interesting trials are the new drugs. EGFR inhibitors, EGFR-V3 inhibitors. The first patient in the world ever to get an antibody drug conjugate targeting EGFR-V3 was over the road at the Royal Melbourne Hospital. Pretty exciting. Lots of new immunotherapies coming along, being tested in glioblastoma and other brain cancers. There are drugs which are targeting novel gene abnormalities. We've got an IDH1 mutant inhibitor coming along. These are really exciting new targets, and they're recognised from the laboratory and are very quickly being put into the mainstream clinical trial network. The portfolio is large, the portfolio changes, and I think if you're interested in clinical trials as a patient, the trick is to say to your clinician, wherever they might be, is there a trial for me? That clinician can very easily contact me or one of the other investigators around Melbourne and ask the question. You don't have to come and see us, let the doctor do the walking for you. And if it's appropriate, we're very happy to see patients and see them quickly and make decisions quickly about whether they may or may not be appropriate for a trial.